Well, I mean, I don't think that was an issue today. What was an issue today was a claim or a demand by the opposition, advocated by Dr. Manu Singhvi, that I mean, it was almost not just a misconceived but an audacious petition to suggest that somehow or the other they should be in a privileged position. Public servants should be in a privileged position, and particularly political public servants in the matter of bail. Now, the court rightly rebuffed that. You know, it is absurd for them to suggest, because they've been through the grind, they've been through the legal grind, they've been arrested, and they're so privileged that they've been given early hearings, their bail applications are being disposed of fast. They may not be successful, but the entire judiciary, I mean, there are different magistrates, different sessions court judges, different special courts, different high courts, different benches of the Supreme Court, hearing individual matters of all these opposition politician accused. So are we saying that every judge who's heard this case rejected their bail applications? And by the way, none of these opposition politicians whose cases are pending, that large number, have dared to ask for a quashing of their case, that the whole case against them is false, that there is no evidence, that it's a mala fide case. You may mouth this in public, you may say this in media, but you have to put your mouth before the courts. What you mouth in public is not enough. I feel, Rahul, that the opposition has basically become victim to their own hype. I mean, they started believing their own propaganda regarding the mala fides and the bias of the investigating agencies, so much so that they, having been rebuffed by all the individual courts who are dealing on a day-to-day basis with their cases, they now try to club together everything. This is a you know, a really ingenious kind of strategy.
So let me ask you,
on your individual cases where the facts have been dealt with at length.
I appreciate the point that you made. I think the second point, that none of the opposition netas have dared to ask for a quashing of the case. Of course, I don't have the exact facts, but I do know that when the Gandhis, for example, approached the court saying that, look, quash our cases, that didn't quite happen. In fact, they're out on bail. And that, you know, and there are several other cases that, you know, you can see on your screens. But let me ask you the second question, because it kind of flows from the first. Several cases, and I'm talking specifically about the Enforcement Directorate, don't end in a prosecution complaint either. In fact, 81% have not yielded a charge sheet. Now, the reason I'm focusing on the ED is because the opposition says that this is the agency that most often goes after us, citing corruption, etc., etc. And while corruption is a great cancer and the public despises individuals in places of power that are corrupt, we get slandered, but at the end of the day, only about 19% of us will face any consequence. The rest of us will have gone through this process without, you know, any charge sheet, and we'd be dragged through, our image would be dragged to the mud.
Well, I mean, there is some truth in that, and that is because delay in our legal system is endemic. By the time cases finally come up for trials, you know, A, they've lost their sting, B, witnesses have disappeared, right? And there's been a greater scam. So, you know, that's everything is just for is momentary. So that is true, that conviction rates are low, and there's a reason for that. Our entire justice system is slow. That needs changing, but that doesn't detract from the fact that there is a prima facie case against all of them. There's prima facie truth.
No, but in this,
both the allegations
the statistic
and the
I pointed out
backs up that there is a prima facie case.
Fair enough, but I'm not talking about the conviction rate here. I'm talking about the cases that the investigations that end up in the filing of a charge sheet. Only 19% do. 81% don't, and that, I think, is a big number, isn't it?
Well, look, I'm not quite sure about that statistic, but even if that is true, I don't know, are we talking about the ED? Because most of the CBI cases do end up, the majority of the CBI cases, the Enforcement Directorate, look, they are predicate offences. Ultimately, what happens is sometimes the predicate offence is found either quashed or there's an acquittal or a discharge, right? Then the ED case goes. So ED rates will, charge sheets will largely depend upon the predicate offence. There's no predicate offence which stands the test of the courts. Then the ED offence goes as well. But in all these cases, right, which have been filed post 2014, I don't think the ending up in a charge sheet argument holds at all. All of them, the cases which Abhishek Singhvi brought to court, right, the opposition cases, I think charge sheets have been filed in the vast majority of them.
Okay.
The overall picture from previous regimes may be altogether different. But post 2014, look at that statistic. To my knowledge, all the public servants involved in cases of either of the CBI for prevention of corruption or the ED for money laundering, all of them have ended up in charge sheets or complaints.
Okay. Well, I'll defer to you on that because I don't have facts exactly on this, but I'll take your word for it. Thank you, Mr. Jethmalani. I think you've very eloquently summed up at least the BJP's position on this. Whether it will be bought by the opposition or not, let's see. Let's open this.